Fox News is covering socialism and socialists every single day. I'm glad that the movement is growing, so much so that Fox News moved on from doing this just to me, but instead to the broader socialist movement. Okay, what is this? This is a scandalizing remix?
Diving headfirst into...
What the is this? Okay, chatter. All right, we'll look at it later. All right.
Well, House Dems took this watershed vote this week to cut assistance to Israel. More than 100 lawmakers voted in favor of this measure that blocks funding to America's closest security ally in the Mideast. Joining us now, Josh Kraushaar, Fox News radio political analyst.
That's
Josh,
crazy. That's crazy. Wait, first of all, that's what Josh looks like? This is my first time seeing what this looks like. I've only seen his little PFP on Twitter. This is the primary op. AIPAC stooge, Jewish insider reporter Josh Kraushaar. Goddamn.
This was alarming, to put it mildly. Take a look from Democrats.
Yeah, wait, did he write this article? No, Gabby Deutsch is another op of mine. She wrote this article. AIPAC ends fundraising for endorsees who voted to cut off Israel aid. Wah, wah. Good. Great. Put the flag on the ground. It's the American flag, baby, not the Israeli one. Okay? AIPAC ends fundraising for endorsees who voted to cut off Israel aid. This is This is Jewish Insider, where Josh Kraushaar writes for. It is basically the propaganda apparatus for AIPAC. It's AIPAC's own fake newspaper. Democratic Socialist top MAGA candidates among voters in CNBC's All America poll. Yeah, maybe that's why they're hitting the DSA candidates. I saw that. Yeah. Democratic Socialists and the movement is more popular than MAGA and more popular than Trump, by the way. Okay. Interesting stuff coming out of these polls.
Democratic Rep Adam Smith, who says, I am deeply concerned about the tactics used by those on the far left to advocate cutting off aid to Israel. To date, my family and I have had our home vandalized. A fire has been set in my driveway. Neighbors' lives have been disrupted in the middle of the night. Town halls meant to be forums for dialogue have been shut down, and a staff member physically...
It's so funny that all these guys have to self-flagellate to be like, I'm voting to cut off all aid to Israel in this symbolic vote that I'm placing, knowing full well that it's not going to pass. But also, I just need you to know, like, I'm really sorry about it, okay? And people have gotten totally out of hand. They're hurting me. They're hurting my family. Please, you know? Yeah, Sarah Rodriguez dropped out. I know. I got that. I got that on the docket. Don't worry. We're going to talk about Wisconsin in a little bit. There's a lot going on in both the Michigan race and the Wisconsin race. If I were a Zionist, I stop and think about how the fact that politicians believe that attacking Israel is good for them politically might be a sign that Israel needs to change its strategy. Yep, it's okay. We know, and it's nothing new, says Saul Sadka. Lucky we have an army now. Strait of Hormuz is closed, by the way, says Sammy Gold. Now, luckily we have an army now is, again, more of the same. Like, this guy literally read this, okay? He read this criticism and then immediately turned around and said, nope, no notes. Gonna do the same thing that we've been doing. Bitch, what army? You don't have an army without American aid. You don't have an army without American support. You know what you have? Criminals. Okay? Without American political cover at the international level, for example, you know what you have? You don't have an army. You have a bunch of criminals that are doing, which is the truth, by the way. Oh, I guess that's the door. Jesus Christ. Terrifying. M is real high.
Assaulted. Yikes.
Yeah, Jillian. I mean, this shows you the rising power of the extreme left in Democratic Party politics, and that you had 103 Democrats, some of whom were actually pro-Israel supporters for most of their careers. But as Adam Smith said, they were facing political threats from the far left. And in Adam Smith's case, he was facing the threat of physical violence against him in order to cast this as part of a pressure campaign in casting this vote against Israel and its funding at a time of great need, and they're facing security threats all over the region. So, I mean, it shows you just how much influence the socialist movement of the Democratic Party, winning these big primaries in New York and Colorado last month, it shows how much influence they're having with within the party. I will say, though, that when it comes to the general election politics, the mainstream politics, almost all of the Democrats that are running for the Senate in swing states or in swing districts that are facing general elections against strong Republican candidates, almost all of them actually voted with Israel and voted to
Good. Yeah. No, that's definitely pro-Israel politics wins in swing states. Yeah, the other side of the story that Josh is, of course, cleverly not mentioning is the fact that those candidates, he's also talking about Haley Stevens, obviously, here as well. Those candidates are getting a ton of money from AIPAC. Okay? They're not stronger contenders and being, openly pro-Israel is good politics, especially the wing and swing states in the way that he's trying to imply here. It's just being a friend to Israel allows Israel to buy that seat. That's it. That's the whole point. And most Americans do recognize that nowadays. So it's not looking too good for AIPAC.
To continue the aid to Israel. So it tells you that this is a product of the far left really getting its foothold in Democratic Party politics.
Fearing perhaps, a spread to the Senate, as Senator John Fetterman said this earlier in the week. Want to get your reaction.
I literally said that on your network at least a week or two or more ago. Now, I believe that the Democratic Party is going to become more anti-Israel. You make that official. You make that part of our platform. That's my red line in the Democratic Party. They're not just, I'm just pro-Palestinian. I'm deeply anti-Israel. They campaign with garbage like Hassan Piker that's pro-Hamas.
I mean, obviously, that generated a lot of headlines when he originally said it, but he's standing by it. Even more so after this shock vote this week.
Yeah, look, John Fetterman is in the perennial swing state of Pennsylvania. He understands how politically toxic.
Dude. This is the funniest. This is Fox News, okay? They're not exactly known for being truthful. They're not exactly known for, insightful commentary on what's actually taking place in American politics. But this is exceptional, okay? This is an exceptional operation of lying and claiming that something that is on fire is actually not on fire at all, okay? The notion that pro-Israel politics is popular in swing states is a lie. Okay, it's gone. It's over. It is the most over. It's dead. I mean, Chris Rabb obviously proved this in Philadelphia, but regardless, Summer Lee as well. But regardless, it's not even just about that. It's not even just about Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and cities. By and large, pro-Israel politics is so unbelievably toxic. Okay, it's gone. It's done. It's so bad that all of the money that AIPAC is dumping to the remaining pro-Israel politicians, the ones that are loyal, will eventually backfire on those politicians. It's already started to backfire. There are examples of this in upstate New York with that Democrat that voted to censure Rashida Tlaib back in the day, literally refunding AIPAC donations. Okay? Anti-Israel politics is not only good politics, it's good policy. And everyone knows it. AIPAC knows it too. That's precisely the reason why they never talk about their stooges being pro-Israel. Pat Ryan is who I was talking about. Thank you, Chatter. AIPAC knows this as well. That's precisely the reason why they have to do these shell corporations and move money around to hide the fact that it's coming from an Israel-related super PAC. And not only that, but also none of those ads ever feature the candidate's position on Israel. It's gotten so bad that AIPAC in the past would literally do everything in their power to deny you your seat if you were even slightly critical of Israel, whether it be critical of Netanyahu or critical of anything that Israel is doing. Nowadays, they're even giving allowances to their politicians to criticize Benjamin Netanyahu. Haley Stevens is a fantastic example of this. Haley Stevens is probably one of the biggest pro-Israel stooges in a long list of people who demonstrate absolute fealty to this foreign. Haley Stevens has now been given the bandwidth to make it seem like she's Israel critical, even though she's gotten $40 million in ad spend from Israel PACs, AIPAC, United Democracy Project, and numerous others. That's how bad things have gotten. So Josh Kraushaar can keep denying that reality all day, every day. Josh Kraushaar and many others can say, oh, it's just anti-Semitism. That's the reason why people are critical of Israel, or eventually they're going to give up on this and eventually they're going to move. They're not moving. As I like to repeatedly explain to people, today is the day that Israel will be the most popular. Tomorrow, Israel will be less popular than it is today. Yesterday, Israel was more popular than it is today. It's done. Every day that goes on, Israel becomes less and less popular. Pro-Israel politics becomes more toxic. It is a litmus test for a politician's responsiveness to the needs of the base. Are they going to place the interests are they going to place moneyed interests first and foremost in the way that they legislate, or are they going to put the working class at the center of their politics? That's what it is. Palestine has replaced wokeness as a progressive litmus test. Even if you're a center-left Democrat who's not particularly pro-Palestine, this should be seen as a good thing. It's a better litmus test than wokeness, since being pro-Palestine/Israel skeptical is more popular among Americans and therefore isn't an electoral liability the way wokeness is, says Shadi Hamid. Here's a great example, by the way. U.S. Representative Haley Stevens is asked by W. Detroit.
Participating in out here, I'm transparent. People are frustrated.
She's asked by W. Detroit
and witnessing in
God
Michigan
damn it! What the fuck is going on? Jesus Christ! She's asked by W. Detroit how she would increase transparency in U.S. campaign finance laws. Her response will shock you.
Look, I'm out here. I'm transparent. People are frustrated. I just put out a television ad saying I'm the only non-millionaire running for Senate. And you're so right, Russ.
What is this?
Just talked to some of these leading campaign finance reform organizations, and I told them, I said directly, I got an A grading from them, and it's true. We've got a problem in this country. We need courageous leadership. We need the laws to change. Mike Rogers, he's going along with Donald Trump's schemes.
But wouldn't it be more courageous to not take that money in a primary? I understand that you need to make money, or you need to have all the money you can in general
well,
election.
Russ, you know how our election laws work. The thing is that we have to pass the laws to stop dark money. It is not about whether I say it or not as a point of altruism. This is actually about changing our laws. Look, I've seen this before in my races. I had League of Conservation Voters, great organization. I'm so proud of them. One day I'm watching the TV and they got a nice ad up for me. I think this was like in 2021 or something.
Yeah, it's just totally happenstance, totally random stroke of luck, totally a random accident that Israel and AIPAC has dumped $40 million into this race. Of course, Ryan Grimm asks a very salient, very important point, raises a very salient point. After/if Stevens wins the nomination, AIPAC will obviously drop her like a rock. Why would they waste money when she and Mike Rogers will vote the same way? Neera Tanden knows this and doesn't care. More important for her to block Abdul and then lose the general. That is the fucking reality. Because Haley Stevens is not being carried right now by her charisma, by her campaigning, by the real mobilization that she's been able to implement on the ground. It's not the policies. If you were to ask anybody what the fuck Haley Stevens stands for, I don't think many of her supporters would have a reasonable answer. They'd just say, oh, she's reliable. Obama likes her. She's worked for Michigan for many, many years. If you were to be like, what is a policy that she is going to implement that you like, that you are voting for, you would have no answers. Okay? Most people have no answers for this question. If you ask Abdul, you say, money out of politics, money in your pocket, Medicare for all. Right? Babies, not bombs. These are the easy to understand, definable policy positions that Abdul al-Sayed has that he's communicating very effectively. Right? I know it's oversimplified and a lot of fucking dumbass technocratic neoliberals get mad at that shit, but that's literally the oversimplified message of build the wall. It's very important to be able to define yourself with your policies in a way that is digestible, in a way that is easy to understand. So just remember that. So Abdul's doing a great job with that. Right? So there's nothing in the tank for Haley Stevens of that sort. She's literally being carried by television ads. That's it. To the tune of $54 million. So what happens when that money goes away? Because from the perspective of a lot of these corporate PACs, they could see, because they're companies, they have no loyalty, they have no ideological predisposition. When they realize, and I'm sure making this calculation already, when they realize, if in the unlikely scenario that Haley Stevens wins the primary, that it's her versus Mike Rogers, both are going to be servants of the same corporate interests, they're not going to spend money on Haley Stevens. So what do you do then? What do you do then? What will the Democrats do then? Are they going to exhaust their resources that they could be using elsewhere for a campaign that cannot fundraise, for an uncharismatic candidate, for a candidate that most, given her AIPAC affiliations, most likely is going to be harmed in the general election by a lot of voters? There will be tremendous depressive consequences on turnout if Haley Stevens is the candidate. Okay? What do you do then? He got your ass, bro. Okay, we're going to talk about Haley Stevens right now. I don't want to talk about Osei cooking my ass with slander, but we'll get there in a second. Yeah, Hamid Bendas says, this Michigan strategist is actually fully aware that Haley Stevens has a serious general election fundraising liability because she's fully reliant on AIPAC. Why is everyone not talking about this? Meanwhile, with fundraising an indicator of excitement for a candidate, Stevens has been consistently lagging others, Selleck said. If I were a supporter of hers, your stream is on Fox News right now? Wait, what? What are they talking about? Let's tune in. Maine's buffet of bad options.
Well, but the interesting thing is that shows the problem they have. The left can't be satisfied, and no one else could possibly be satisfied. It's why I think Susan Collins is going to have a very successful campaign this year. Nobody's happy except people who are sane, and I think they might emerge as the winner.
Did they post me joking and saying these guys don't have a lot of charisma? Oh, fuck. I got to stop talking, dude. I hate that shit. Fuck you, Fox News. We're busting out the Troy Yoda, folks. Troy Jackson is our boy. Anyway, as I was saying, you dumbass, what do you mean? I'm going to be fucking honest. If I see something, I'm going to say something. It was funner when you weren't known. Yeah. Politico is the reason, actually. Michael Cruz. Hassan Piker's take on the new Maine Senate candidates. They're all so Rizless. Has anybody watched a Hassan Piker stream? The guy's dumb as a doornail. He's blue MAGA. Nobody cares what this loser thinks. Stop being weird, Cruz. He means they're all so non-rapist, which is why he's sad. No, you know what I realized? I can get these guys to be fucking pro Troy Jackson by just saying Troy Jackson sucks. I think I could get every single liberal on this website to ride for Troy Jackson because they just genuinely don't care about anything. They just hate me so much that I think they would be in favor of Troy Jackson. I like Troy Jackson. Or rather, I should say, Troy Jackson is too centrist for my taste. Wink. Anyway, where were we? Oh, meanwhile, with fundraiser, we're talking about Haley Stevens and her her lack of ability to fundraise, her significant issues with fundraising. If I were a supporter of hers, that might make me a little nervous, Selleck said of Stevens. In the Super PAC era, her campaign may not feel the necessity to raise a lot if they're watching 26 million and we're only on July 15th. There must be a lot more to come. Still, it could spell danger for her in the general election if this heavy spending in the primary is just based on stopping El Sayed, Selleck added. Then what happens next? Yeah, Milwaukee. Holy shit. There's crazy stuff happening in Milwaukee. There's crazy stuff happening in Wisconsin, in the Wisconsin gubernatorial. We're going to get into that in a second. Here's another example of this, by the way. Shri Tanadar running against our boy in Detroit, or the incumbent. Hopefully, we're going to unseat him with Democratic Socialist endorsed Donovan McKinney. Shri Tanadar's campaign reported losing $630,000 after investing $3.7 million in crypto. Amid those losses, AIPAC donors stepped in and gave Tanadar 2/3 of the money he raised last quarter, ahead of a challenge from Dem Socialist Donovan McKinney. It's unbelievable. The level of corruption is fucking insane. A similar level of corrupt politicking is taking place in Wisconsin. We're gonna get into that in a second. Last thing I wanted to point to with Michigan before we get into Wisconsin politics was going to be about Abdul al-Sayed. So Abdul al-Sayed, the race in Michigan is heating up. Haley Stevens has gotten the signature centrist endorsement of Jim Clyburn, Who could forget when Jim Clyburn endorsed Andrew Cuomo against Zohran Mamdani? You know the deal. Congressional Black Caucus PAC has also thrown some money in the race, or is slated to throw some money in the race. Congressional Black Caucus PAC is also, basically another subsidiary of AIPAC at this point. So that's where we're at in the Michigan race. Abdul Al-Sayed did something that I don't think he should have done, but he did it anyway, and I respect his decision. If you recall yesterday or the day prior, I talked a little bit about Haley Stevens and like how I was starting to get a little worried that people on the internet memeing Haley Stevens was, about like clowning on Haley Stevens about the way she sounds, was eventually going to shift the attention away from how bad of a candidate she is for other reasons, Israel-related reasons, and instead present her as a more sympathetic figure. Liberals have been signaling that they're trying to do this already, right? Liberals have already been doing this where they're like, oh, Haley Stevens, she's always the victim of bullying, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Abdul Al-Sayed came out and released this Bernie Bro style apology. Wait, what? Is the post been deleted? No, it's still there. Okay. He said, it's become impossible to ignore the way that my opponent for things that we have nothing to do with her policies or politics is unkind and unhelpful. If you support me, please stop. Now, it's a good way to not really apologize and to also not take ownership over this, but it doesn't matter because the media is going to use this to their advantage regardless. He doesn't actually say, hey, my fans are doing this, you should stop, right? Focus on the issues. Congresswoman Stevens has welcomed corporations and special interests to support her. She votes to send our money abroad while Michiganders struggle. She's bought by DTE, Blue Cross, Big Tech, and Big Pharma who pick our pockets. AIPAC, Trump-aligned billionaires, and corporate PACs are spending $50 million to support her. Those are the issues. We don't need to be unkind, to be honest.